Starting them up the strooms. Start them up the strooms. What is up, ladies and gentlemen, twerkers, jerkers, and lurkers, witches, liches, and bitches? It is time once again for another edition of Johnston Blackhorse Do's the Drarwringz with your host, me, Johnston Blackhorse, the one and only, and I am going to do the Drarwringz. What an absolute fucking nutter this guy is. This guy's fucking crazy. This is my darling love, my sweetness, honey kitty moderator. Okay. I've been kind of like tweaking around with these boots while just like kind of taking it easy today. Just been kind of feeling sluggish after lunch, and then we just barely got done with dinner. Had some pigs in a blanket with some homemade tato wedges. Pretty good. Slacker is what Melody says. Yes, I am slacking. Maybe someday, some weekend soon, I'll allow myself to just enjoy the weekend. Just fucking do nothing. Maybe just lay about all day and just binge watch a TV show or put on a movie. I think that'd be cool. That'd be pretty fucking rad, eh? Pretty fucking rad, sure enough. Excuse me. That wasn't much of a burp. Pardon me for the lackluster burp. I'm sorry, workings with me is a hardship, you pin. No! I don't mean it in that way. It's just like, I feel like I've just been like busy like all the time. And earlier today I was like thinking like, you know what, it's been like so long since I've just did nothing for like a weekend. Cause it's like I don't know, like I feel like I constantly need to be working, and it's great that I get to like just do some of my own art every now and then. But to just like, I don't know, it's been a while since I've just like done nothing, you know? But I can't allow myself to do that right now. Cause I gotta stay busy. Gotta stay busy to make the monies. I'm not saying that yeah, I'm not saying that you're a slave driver. I'm just saying that I don't know, just like thinking about it earlier today, just like, when is the last time where I just did nothing for a weekend? It's like no drawing, no chores, no obligations, just vegged out, I guess. It has been a while. Of course, like, I don't think I'd be able to allow myself to veg out that much, because I'd have to jump online and just hang out with Melody, because not a day goes by where we don't just like fucking shoot the shit and chat like all day, every day. So though I say like, yeah, it'd be nice to just like take like a weekend and just like veg out. I wouldn't be able to veg out without Melody by my side. So eventually I'd have to jump back online and just chill out with Mel. Right, Melody? Right, love? Darling honey kitty? Tootsie Bootsie? Yep. Okay, let's get some stories going. I haven't continued this story. May as well keep it going.
He says he's inviting some friends over too. His parents are on a cruise in the Caribbean, apparently. And he's house sitting. He's older than me, 25 or 26, I think. So go visit with buddies of mine, Mark and Aiden. Meet cousin, Luke, and his 5 friends. Chris, Mary, Henry, Jesse, a girl, and Jasper. 8 of us in total. Me and my buddies arrive around 1 and unpack our stuff. Greeted with weed and beer. Cool. All my cousin's friends seem like chill people. Eventually settle in. Head out to the lake to swim until it's about 3 or 4. While I'm swimming, I have this bad feeling, as if I'm being watched. Wave it off, enjoy girls in bikinis and the booze.
Hell's yeah,
Cousin has a
girls in
water tank near the
bikinis.
lake, also a paddle boat. Dick around all afternoon until about 6. Cousin tells us it's time to wrap it up. Psh, party pooper, we all say. Cousin just waves it off, and even though we argue, he makes us head up to the house. We eat some pasta for dinner, and it's like 7 now. Beautiful summer night. I went to watch the sunset. Grab a 6-pack and head outside. Where are you going, Anon? My cousin asks. Oh, just outside. It's a nice night, I say. Cousin looks nervous. I don't know about that, Anon. There's bears outside. They get pretty close to the house. Well, if that happens, I'll just come inside, I tell him. Still looks worried. Lets me go. Chill outside for a little bit. Cousin comes outside after a while. Brings gun with him. Lol, what? What the fuck you need this for? I ask. Me being raised in the suburbs, I've never touched a gun before, let alone see a real one. You know, just in case. Sit outside for a while. The sun is gone, and it starts to get dark. Cousin insists we go inside. I give in. He locks the door behind us, but I notice there's a huge fucking deadbolt on the door. Like really big. Unreasonably big. 3 other smaller locks on the door as well. Whatever, I guess they're just secure. Head upstairs and chill with everyone else. They're watching a movie and smoking some weed. Take a seat next to Mary because she's hot, and I'm trying to get my dick wet. We chatted up. She's cool, and drunk, and high. Easy pickings, boys. She suggests we go somewhere quieter. Head over to a bedroom on the 1st floor. Start making out. Get some action.
What the fuck?
Get some OTPHJ action. She's topless. She suddenly stops. What's wrong? I ask her. She says nothing and just stares behind me, kinda like she's looking for something. Suddenly, she screams. Loudest fucking scream I've ever heard. Runs out of the fucking room topless. I look behind me. Nothing there. What the fuck? Am I that repulsive? Grab her shirt and bra and follow her out. She's sitting in the middle of the living room, in the fetal position. I give her the shirt and shit, she's putting it back on, as everyone else runs downstairs. What's wrong? I ask. What's wrong? What the fuck was that screaming? Everyone else asks. She doesn't talk for a few minutes. People start saying I raped her. I'm like, nope, shut the fuck up. She finally speaks up. Thanks, bitch. Now tell them I didn't rape you. What she says clears my name, but also fucking ruins my vacation. While we were hooking up, I told you it was consensual, I looked out the window and thought I saw something. But because the light was on, I couldn't really see out the window all that well, she says. Makes sense. All of a sudden, someone's face gets real close to the window. Except their face was all wrong. What? Their eyes were all sunken in, and their nose seemed really broken. Everyone is quiet as fuck listening to her. And their mouth was just hanging open, almost crooked, like they had a dislocated jaw or something. Everyone starts freaking out. Oh my god, there's creepers watching us, what the fuck? Ill, gross. He sounded ugly. Some people think she's kidding. It was probably just Anand's reflection, Aiden says. Lol, herder. I'm being fucking serious right now, you fucks. Mary snaps at him. I know what I fucking saw. All this time, my cousin is just quiet. Hasn't said a word yet. I ask him what he thinks. Everyone shuts up to listen to him. I think we shouldn't worry about it, he says. The fucker was wrong and he knew it. Mary gets mad at people for not taking her seriously, but eventually calms down. We all settle down and sleep upstairs in the big room with the TV. The rest of the night is uneventful. Day 2. Wake up, still a little weirded out from last night's events. Whatever, probably just some weirdo, won't happen again. Start out the day just fine. Eat breakfast, go for a morning hike with everyone. Except Mary, who left that morning in her own car. Smoke a little, head back, all the while feeling awfully paranoid that someone was watching us. Start swimming, sitting on the water trampoline. Look out into the forest. See someone standing there. They're pretty far away, so I can't see who it is. I wave. They wave back, but the wave seemed real sluggish, almost slow motion. Look back at group. There's only 5 of us total at the lake. Me, Aiden, Luke, Mark, and Chris. Everyone else went to smoke. I assume it's one of them. Look back at where the person was. They're gone now. I guess they moved on. Everyone else who was gone suddenly shows up. How'd you guys get around the lake so quickly? I asked them. They're confused. Says they were just in the house eating. What? I waved at you though. Dude, what are you talking about? We've been inside. Okay, what? Cousin Luke looks worried. He looks out into the forest. I'm weirded out now. Level 5 nope alert right now. Something's up. I get off water tramp and ask my cousin what's up. Not right now. I'll tell you later. Okay, whatever. It's about 6 or 7 p.m. Meanwhile, Chris, Henry, and Jesse go out the shed to get a shovel. They want to dig a hole so we can have a fire pit tonight. Gone for a while. Suddenly, hear a screech from the forest. More screeches. Luke tells us all to go the fuck inside, now. We all nope our way to the house. What the fuck is going on? He says nothing at first. They aren't supposed to come out during the day, he says to himself. They're breaking the rules. What the fuck are you saying? Hear a banging at the door.
They're breaking the
Chris
rules.
Screaming at the top of his lungs. Open the fucking door! Jesus Christ, you cunts, open the door! Luke opens the door and Chris barges in. Henry and Jesse, nowhere to be found. Where are Henry and Jesse? Luke asks. Fuck if I know, I got separated, and these things fucking started chasing me. Luke goes around the house and locks all the doors and all the windows.
This story is like starting to sound like fucking shit. It's like they weren't supposed to come out during the day. They're breaking the rules. Like fucking like if you knew there were like friggin' crazy entities out there, like why the fuck would you bring all your friends to go party? Like yeah, there's a big risk that whatever these creatures are, like your buds might be attacked, but no, you want to fucking party it up with your friends in this cabin in the woods. Despite there being like these like potential life-threatening danger out there. But oh no, it's like, oh, I'll be fine. There's like there's rules that these creatures abide by. So fucking stupid, man. Because people be stupid, Master Rizzle. Right? Fucking idiots, eh? But yeah, the story is already like just sounding like, oh, this is just fucking some lame ass bullshit.
And closes all the shutters. We all go upstairs. Look out window down the hill. See dozens of figures walking around near the edge of the woods. It wasn't even walking. It was more like they were jittering their way around. Like they were having seizures while walking.
Doing the jitterbug?
Even more standing near the shed on the other side of the woods. Just standing there. What the fuck? Aiden says. What? I ask, but I don't need him to answer. Henry and Jesse are on the path on their way from the cabin, as if nothing is wrong. They're just fucking walking really slow. Walk up to the door and try to get in. Start knocking. Shouldn't we let them in? Still knocking, non-stop. Luke is silent for a moment, like he's seen this before, but doesn't want to tell us. It isn't them, he says. What the fuck? What do you mean it isn't them? Still knocking. Louder now. More than just one hand, like a bunch of people knocking together. That's not them. It looks like them, but it isn't. We need to fucking leave. We wait until morning, but no one sleeps. Knocking all throughout the night. Endless screeching from everywhere. Eventually, screeching dies down. Knocking fades too by the morning. But Henry and Jesse are still there. I look outside from the window above the front door. They're both staring straight at the door. Suddenly, they both look up right at me. Their eyes look gone, just deep, empty sockets. Jaws are slack. Fucking stare into my soul. There aren't eyes, but I can still feel them looking, even after I leave the window. And I wouldn't...
Right? It sounds like every single generic 2000s teen horror movie. It does.
Never forget that look. Around 9 a.m., Luke decides it's time to go. Luke grabs his gun and gives us all a golf club that belongs to his dad. We're all just going to run to the cars. Don't look around, just go. He tells me to drive the Range Rover, and Chris is going to drive the sedan. After designating where everyone is going to sit, we all pile up by the back door. Luke opens it slightly, looks around, then starts booking it to the car. We all follow, get in the cars, see Henry and Jesse running after us, but they aren't running. Almost like they're sliding across the grass while standing up, like puppets on strings. We get in the car. Jasper won't get into the car because he doesn't want to leave them behind. Luke fucking punches him in the face and throws him into the passenger seat of the sedan. We drive off, Henry and Jesse chasing us. Loud screeching from every fucking where. They almost drown out the sound of the engine.
Every fucking where.
Sound like what I imagine a man bat would sound like. I see figures on the side of the road.
A man bat?
I see faces. They're exactly what Mary described. I wish I could forget them. They look gross, deformed, and improper. They all had slack jaws, but one side of the jaw usually hung lower than the other. Their shoulders were lopsided. Their stance was crooked. and their legs seemed broken and backwards, like a grasshopper's legs. Kept seeing them until we left the foresty area. Drive 90 all the way home. A few days after I got home, I called my cousin and asked him what went down. He just kept telling me to forget it. I asked him about the things he said, like when under his breath, he said, "They're breaking the rules." Always just tells me to forget it ever happened, because it would be better that way.
Stop being so cryptic, you ass.
Used to work with an events company. One event took us to downtown Houston.
Oh, that's it? Fucking, that story was lame.
Small party at the Houston Library. Anyone that's worked in this sort of job knows you often work split shifts. You set up before the event starts, go home to get some sleep while it's going on, then come back and work overnight to quote-unquote tear it down. Since this one was so small, it was just me and a handful of guys. One of them goes off by himself to take down the lights. Let's call him George. George is on a big ladder by an upstairs window, pulling lights. Pick related. George is by one of those arched windows on the left-hand side. I'm walking by, and George stops me. Tells me he hears music inside the building. I listen, and sure enough, I can hear a violin. Figure maybe someone left the radio on. Tell George to just ignore it, it's not our job. But George tells me, "It's moving." Not sure what he means. George says he's been hearing the music move past him, back and forth. I listen closely. The fucker's right. The sound of the violin is traveling from one window to the next, then back. Fucking ghost music. George is Hispanic and incredibly superstitious. So I tell him to hurry up before El Diablo gets him. Never seen him work so fast. Keck. By the time we're done tearing down, everyone's aware of the ghost violinist. We stand there for a while staring up at the windows, listening to the music in the dark. Beautiful piece. Still wonder what it is to this day. Find out later, the old groundskeeper used to play violin. He and his dog are said to haunt the building. Rest in peace, old-timer. You are one hell of a fiddler. This one is a story from an old-timer related to my granduncle. He's been dead for 13 years.
Is there a difference between a fiddle and a violin? And a viola? Nine small differences between fiddle, violin, and viola. Fiddle versus violin is the frame of the body. The fiddle and violin have a smaller frame size than the viola in both width and length. Huh. Standard fiddle differs from the violin with an arched angle near the waist that makes it have a larger diameter. Most agree that telling the difference this way is not reliable because fiddle and violin sizes differ depend on manufacturer. Huh. The fiddle has a flatter bridge that is less arched than a classical violin. This allows for double stop and triple stop bowing, popular in many types of fiddling music. A violin has a more arched bridge that is aimed for a note that is cleaner. The violin, viola, and fiddle also have different tone variations, and the style of playing each instrument is distinct from the other. Oh, wow. Okay. Anyway, I was just curious.
And was born in the late 1800s. Old as fuck. Nobody knows his real age. Be 100 years ago. End of World War I. Old-timer who then was a young man that had recently gotten married. Lived in a wooden house with rock slate roofing up the mountains of central eastern Albania, on the border with northern Macedonia. Had his own plot of land, farming corn. Made his own food. had a cow and some chickens and shit. Defended his turf with pride, and was what you would call totally off-grid. Except the real deal. Would occasionally go down mountain to trade his corn for wheat, tools, and clothes. Avid hunter that would hunt and kill bears and wolves for their skins. Had a very large Shar sheep hound. One day takes his hound and goes hunting for pelts, as he would also use the furs for trading, as well as personally clothing. Wife at his place doing wife things. Gets up the forest and tries to find tracks. Hound is extremely intelligent and doesn't fuck off and run like most dogs. Stays close to him and waits for his word on where to go and what to chase. You have to keep in mind that Albania is geographically unique. The country is vertically split, one side being plains and the other mountains, although there's more mountains than plains, but also a lot of valleys. Most of the mountainous areas are very isolated, even the valley towns up there. Back then, especially in World War I, these people were like those Amazon rainforest hunter-gatherers, in that they were very susceptible to new foreign diseases, and were technologically 100 years behind, although Old Timer had a modern rifle for the time. Old Timer caught the Spanish flu a year or two after the story, but easily survived it. My maternal great-grandfather family all died of the flu except for himself, and he would later marry my maternal great-grandmother. Alright, back to story. Old Timer and hound spot large cat paws
Excuse
printed
me.
on the ground near a small stream. Literally, the size of his head. Start tracking the fucker. I think you know where this is going because it's obvious. Ancient Albania and the Balkans used to be filled with cave lions, the type the mythical Hercules would have fought and killed. These areas are isolated, so it just may be the case a few survived in the early 1900s. Start tracking the beast to a large cave. Hound immediately smells something and starts screaming and howling. Obviously, the Old Timer now lost the element of surprise. Quickly, a cave lion starts rushing out of the large black cavern. Sharhound, without taking orders, starts rushing at Lion. Lion is huge, all brown-colored fur. Looks like a bear, but clearly with a lion mane, except dark brown and black fur underbelly. Obviously a lion face, except more primitive. Old Timer knows the difference between a bear and lion, as lions are frequently talked about around here as a mythical creature. Hound gets ganked but protects his master from charge. Old Timer immediately dumps his bullets, piercing the lion's back. Gun is a British Army Lee Enfield. Lion immediately hits the dirt, but managed to chomp on Old Timer's knee, which attributed to his limp he carried for the rest of his life. Lion was huge, at least 5 feet tall, but remember, its head was pivoting downwards as it brawled with the dog, and then bit Old Timer's knee all the while. The Old Timer was dumping his mag on the lion's back. The whole thing from initial charge to hitting the floor lasted 2 to 3 minutes. Lion from tail to head had a length of about 7 to 8 feet. Again, it was massive. From the looks of it, Old Timer managed to shoot its heart from the back. Otherwise, the lion wouldn't have immediately died, and he would have been long dead. Bite was deadly, but no artery punctured, so still alive. Immediately starts skinning the lion to take home. Took him hours to walk/climb back down to his house. Scared wife sees his disastrous state, the new brown fleece, and lack of a dog. Turns out, Old Timer would go on to sell the lion pelt to some French general, as at the time, Albania was occupied by France after the Germans left. He was a shrewd man, and was remarked as saying that the lion made him relatively rich. Apparently, the Frenchman gave him a few thousand gold France coins, and he still had some of it when he was alive a few years back. After healing, he went back to the cave to bury his dog, and the dead Herculean lion. Explores cave. Sees hundreds, if not thousands of skulls, strewed both human and animal. This cave was potentially a generational cave for the species.
Ah, missed
It
it.
was the last of its kind.
Damn.
At least on that very remote mountain. Actually found some old Roman coins and Illyrian Greco coins, so this cave might have been used by its ancestors for 2,500 years. Never revealed the location because it probably still had some ancient coins and shit, worth a lot of money. And he would have given the location to his sons. Had 2 daughters, both died before marrying and having children. Wife died in the 50s. Be my uncle, Billy Bob Thornton looking Albanian. Works in chromium industry as structural engineer for mines. Albania has a lot of chromium. Mine in northeast along Kosovo-Albania border.
How do I
Inspects
lock
mine for structural
this?
integrity. All by himself. Nobody is working at that time.
Huh,
Mine
there it
is fairly large, both in terms of height, width, and depth.
No.
Canvassed the whole mine.
What the?
Starts walking back out. Suddenly, at the right corner of his eye, notices an opening to a human-sized tunnel
Ah, fuck.
that he swore he never saw before as he was doing the initial inspection. Told us that he was scared to go in. Felt like something was inside, but he had to
There
go
we go.
in so as to make sure the hold isn't compromised and cause a cave-in while people work in there. Has headlamp and also giant flash lamp. Starts making his way through the tunnel. Its curves almost endless and is very, very long, but it's wide enough for 2 people, but just barely tall enough for him. A basketball player would have to crouch, for instance. It wasn't that large. Suddenly, ends up in an opening. Very large, dark, smells like shit. Hear childish giggling behind him. What the fuck? Turns around and points light to see what's there. Heart is pounding like all hell. Suddenly starts hearing male whimpers behind him. Turns around and follows sound. It's a man, naked, in fetal position, spouting gibberish. Looks like a wild man with long dark brown hair, big, wild beard. Says some Albanian words like, "Don't touch me please, God save me, don't touch me please, God save me," ad infinitum. Spooked the fuck out. Check surrounding again, feeling a bit calm now that someone's there, albeit a crazy naked man with him. Make sure whole opening is structurally sound. Grabs naked man and put him on his back, carrying him. Smells like shit, but not the same shit stink he smelled initially. Man was a worker that went missing 3 months ago. It was assumed to fucked off to rich Europe for more monies. Guy was completely shriveled, like a Jew in Auschwitz. Skin was bleach white, even though he was quite a tanned man, with bronze-like skin. Nobody knows how the fuck he ended up in there. A few months later, he would do another inspection. No tunnel. Completely gone, as if a portal initially opened and is now closed. Crazy man went to a hospital for the insane, got out, and can't recall anything. His whole experience was memory hold. My uncle was a werewolf. Hello. This is my first time posting here, so I'm sorry if I'm doing things wrong. My girlfriend and I recently visited my family in Oregon. She hadn't met my parents yet, and we both wanted a break from the city. So we decided, why not? Let's have some fun in the country. My parents offered to let us stay in their guest house on Mount Hood. I declined and suggested to my girlfriend we stay in a hotel instead. She's a fan of the paranormal, and I knew she would enjoy a stay in my hometown's famously haunted hotel. In fact, you can thank her for this post. She convinced me to tell my story here. To my surprise, she wanted to stay in my family's guest house. I told her I'd rather we didn't, and when she pressed as to why, I cobbled together some poor excuse about mountain lion problems on the property. A week had gone by, and my girlfriend still wanted to make the trip. My parents understood my reservations with the guest house, but felt I should grow up and get over the issues I had with the place. If we would be staying in the guest house, I had to come clean to my girlfriend about it, so, on the drive to Oregon, I told her about the summer my family spent in the guest house, trying to cure my uncle of lycanthropy. I hope this story is relevant to this board and your interests. On June 19th, my parents received a phone call in the middle of the night. They came into my room, woke me, dressed me, and loaded me into the back of the car. They told me my Uncle Red would be in town and that we would be spending this summer camping. My parents' house is roughly a 45-minute drive along Highway 45 to their guest house on Mount Hood. The guest house is what it's called now, but it had been the home my grandparents lived and raised their kids in. They left the house to their kids, who shared it amongst themselves in the form of a guest/vacation home for family members visiting from out of state, or for anyone who wanted to spend a weekend at Timberland Lodge skiing. I had fallen asleep on the drive to the house, but woke up to my aunt, not Red's wife, he was single, opening the door and unbuckling me. My two other uncles sat on the front steps, both smoking and animated while they talked to my parents. My aunt led me past them and around to the back French doors, which opened into the kitchen. The doors to the family room had been closed and chained. From inside, I could hear people yelling and the cries of my uncle while he pleaded for help. His voice cracked, he stuttered and choked while he cried for someone to do something. My aunt locked us in one of the upstairs rooms, along with her two kids, who sat in the corner of the room by the fireplace, crying. My aunt reassured us everything would be okay, that Uncle Red is just sick, and he would be better tomorrow. The sounds of my uncle screaming and crying kept us all awake. We finally fell asleep once the sun came up. I didn't sleep long. I woke to an empty room, and the smell of breakfast and the sounds of my family talking downstairs. I got out of bed and made my way into the kitchen. I felt like I had wakened from a bad dream, like the sounds from last night hadn't happened at all. My family sat around the table, laughing and eating, and I mean everyone. Uncle Red leaned against the island drinking his coffee and talking with my dad. I had no idea what had happened. Tired and confused by the situation, I broke down and cried. My mom scooped me up and carried me back upstairs. Lycanthropy means different things to different people, but to me, it meant that once a month, my uncle would get sick, and sometimes he would be so sick my family needed to chain him to a post so he wouldn't hurt himself or anyone else. My mom took me upstairs and explained this to me in a more child-friendly manner. She sat me down and established the rules of the house. These rules only applied at night. Once the sun started to set, the kids had to be brought inside and taken upstairs. We were to keep the bedroom door locked, but should open it for anyone other than Uncle Red. Don't go outside unsupervised, and no matter how much Uncle Red begs, we must not unchain him from the post. Not every night would be the same for Uncle Red. Some nights I'd wake to the sounds of him screaming and howling, the panicked yells of my uncles and my parents. Other nights would be quiet and peaceful. None of us knew what would trigger the urges in him, and I don't honestly think he knew either. For the most part, I don't think he remembered much of what happened when the wolf brain took over. But once, he described the pre-blackout feeling to my mom being a bubbling sensation. I feel bad now thinking back on the situation because we would avoid talking or looking at Uncle Red. He scared us, and neither my cousins nor I knew how to process our feelings about him. Until that summer, a visit from Uncle Red meant fishing trips, hiking, fun in the great outdoors. But things had changed, and Uncle Red knew that. The longer we stayed in the guest house, the more withdrawn from us he would become. I don't think we realized the true effect this would have on him until the 4th of July. The 4th of July would be the first night we would stay out past sundown. My Uncle Dan had made a supply run into town and brought back fireworks. Nothing big or showy, just small ones. Uncle Red spent most of the day to himself, assuring everyone he felt fine, better than he'd felt since he'd got here. Night came and Uncle Dan got out the fireworks. We had polished off a pack of Whistling Pete's when my aunt lost sight of Uncle Red. While everyone had been preoccupied, he managed to slip off into the woods. My aunt gathered my cousins and I together, while everyone else searched for him. My aunt led us into the house through the front door and towards the stairway. Uncle Red had come in through the back French doors, hunched over, pawing at his head. We ran upstairs and locked the door behind us. Huddled in the corner of my aunt's bed, we listened to Uncle Red scratch at the door. He would mumble and groan before he would slam himself against the door. His moans and whimpers devolved into screams. The rest of the family heard the sounds and rushed inside. Soon, Uncle Red was detained and tied back to his post. I left the house the next day. My parents sent me to stay with some friends who had moved out of town, and I was not to talk about my time in the guest house. I haven't seen Uncle Red since, and to be honest with you, I have no interest. I think the wolf in Uncle Red's brain meant to eat us that night. My girlfriend and I stayed in the house, and so much time had passed, I barely recognized the place. The family had redecorated the whole house and had begun renting it out to skiers. I still don't know how to feel about my experience, but writing this out has helped me process things better. I hope wherever my uncle is, that he's safe and protected. Searched a catalog, but didn't find a military thread. Can we have one? It's the 4th of July, and my Uncle Mickey's death is really burning in my brain. I caught my dad crying in his room this morning over it. Can Ananj please share military stories? I'll start with Uncle's. FYI, I'm actually not that knowledgeable about military stuff, so forgive me if I say anything stupid. We'll continue in next post. Here's some of the shit my uncle went through after he got out, leading up to his death. Uncle was an 11C airborne, apparently. Tours in Kuwait and Panama. Got married, but he had serious trouble readjusting.
That's looking
life.
fancy.
Marriage fell apart. Uncle hit a downward spiral. Dad said he was really awful for a while, and everyone was worried he would eventually off himself. His son, my cousin, ultimately joined the military too. He was even worse than my uncle at one point. Cousin attempted suicide and ended up hospitalized with TBI and PTSD. This fucked with my uncle more than he already was. But he obviously couldn't end hero since he had kids. So he had to figure out other ways of dealing with his issues. On a personal note, he was a great uncle to me. Even with how clearly troubled he was, I've never met a more compassionate man in my life. Anyway, after Cousin's attempted suicide, Uncle somehow manages to meet a woman and remarries. Also, learning carpentry, building houses to keep himself sane. But he's always in excruciating pain from military injuries, knee and back. He's told that if he doesn't get surgery, he'll be paralyzed by the end of the year. The VA is jerking him around about his benefits, so Uncle can't afford a surgery. The thought of becoming paralyzed really fucks with him. Uncle hits a new downward spiral. Just before his death, Uncle's behavior becomes seriously erratic. Okay, so that's the gist of everything he went through. Now here's what I was told happened just before he died. Uncle always keeps a pistol on him. Some nights, he, my aunt, and my cousin will be eating dinner, and Uncle will pull out his pistol and hold it to his head. Aunt and cousin freak out and tell him to put the gun down, but Uncle doesn't seem to hear them. He does this a lot. One day, cousin comes home early, being quiet in case Uncle is asleep, but he hears Uncle talking in his room. He listens. Sounds like Uncle is having a conversation with someone. Cousin assumes he's on the phone, but he overhears. "You're going to make me do it. I don't want to. I love my family." Something like that. Cousin's concerned, knocks on Uncle's door and opens it. He's just sitting on the edge of the bed. No phone. Cousin asks, "Who were you talking to?" "Nobody. Leave me alone." Cousin tells my mom and dad about this. Mentions how sometimes Uncle's eyes will glaze over and he'll put the gun to his head. Fast forward. Uncle is in the garden. Aunt comes home. She says something to him. It's not clear what exactly. Uncle follows her into the house. He tells her, "I killed a man." She says, "What the fuck are you talking about?" He repeats the same thing. "I killed a man," and walks to his room where his gun is. Walks back out, holding the gun up in the air, and says, "I killed him and he won't leave me alone." Aunt freaks out, starts screaming, thinking Uncle's going to kill her. Uncle puts the gun under his chin
It's like, fucking, at this point, why do you keep a gun in the house? The guy's obviously unhinged. And yet you want to keep this pistol in the house? Like, why not just fucking relocate it to another family member's place? Crazy, man.
Blows his brains out. Before he does this, Uncle says something to my aunt. She never tells anybody what it is. Only thing she ever said to my dad was, "I don't think that was him pulling the trigger." Funeral was held after COVID hit. Uncle couldn't have the full military honors he should have had. We couldn't invite friends or even much family. But they played taps, and my dad and cousin, both military, folded the flag. We sang Amazing Grace, and Dad cried. His eyes were so fucking far away as he sang. He looked the same way when I found him this morning, crying. Like I said, I'm not a military guy, but this shit really drove home the fact that some soldiers don't leave the war. It doesn't end for them, even when it's supposed to be over. Any Anons got any stories? I'm open to hearing non-paranormal ones. I just kinda want to feel like I'm not the only one here. Hi, X. I want to share stories about my crazy as fuck neighbor. I'll green text for faster consumption of, and hopefully, better spooks. Here be dump. Be me. Live on 11th floor in this old-ass apartment building. It's pretty chill. Don't hear a lot of noise from other apartments. Maybe a party at times or something, but nothing now due to COVID. Late night, watching comfy vids on YouTube and trying to doze off to Snoozeville. Hear a faint scream, but think nothing of it. Hear it a second time. The fuck was that? Put YouTube on mute and listen. Hear it again, but now way louder. It's absolutely horrific. Something I've never heard before. Loud female scream, sounding like somebody's about to die at any second. Hear some rumbling around, like somebody's quickly moving from one side of the room to the other, and breaking the furniture all along the way. All of a sudden, dead quiet. Shitting myself in anticipation. It dies down a bit, and I make my way to the main doors. Open the doors to the hallway and listen. Hear just the sound of the fluorescent lights and an empty hallway. My sensory levels are at 11. Hear it again. Nope.jpg. Frequencies bounce like a pinball all around the hallway. Can't tell if it's coming from above or below. Another one comes right after. This one, really long and drony. That's it. Call the cops. Compose myself and dial 911. Try to tell them that somebody is screaming in the building. Notice how my voice shakes. Panic slowly sets in, but manage to give them enough info. They say they'll be here soon. Try to make some tea to calm myself down, but I still listen if she'll scream again. She does a couple of more times in much shorter intervals. Try to figure out what's happening and try to make sense of it. Screams coming in irregular rhythms. Only one female scream. No sign of anyone else. No sign of any begging or threats like in typical domestic disputes. Hear that somebody opens the water right before she starts screaming. Decide to say, fuck it, and venture again into the hallways. Super spooked, slowly walking around the hallways, waiting for her to scream again. Hear nothing. 6 policemen come. They ask me shit about the incident. They say somebody reported the screams as well. Thank God it's not me just imagining things or anything like that. Tell them everything, and they say they'll check. Go back to my apartment. The screams conveniently stop. Go back to bed, watch Bob Ross, and fall asleep 2 hours later. Next morning, leave my apartment for work. See a group of neighbors at the bottom floor talking to each other. They're talking about the screams. Some say they heard a faint scream coming from a woman. A guy chips in that he went to explore to see where it was coming from, but couldn't find anything. Later found out that he lives under me and is the same guy that called the police. Tell them my side of this story and mention the water. One woman theorized that it's probably somebody on PCP or some bad drug. since like me, she didn't notice any other voices apart from her. The explorer neighbor says he thought that somebody might be attacked, since the screams are inducing hardcore fear. Go to work and try to forget about it. Return back and do my usual routine of dinner, 4chan, and YouTube. Fucking hear them again. This time, try to figure out where they're coming from. Long intervals of pause make it extremely difficult to figure out where they're coming from. Standing on the hallway like an idiot for 20 minutes. Hear scream. Don't know if it's coming from above me or down. Try going up and wait. Get fucking spooked standing in the dark and listening closely. Hear it again. Still can't figure out where they're coming from. Get tired of waiting. Go back to the apartment. Watch more YouTube. No screams. Fall asleep. Next morning, I bump into the explorer neighbor that lives under me. Strike up a convo about the screams. He says he heard them again and went to take a look. Still couldn't figure out where they're coming from. He literally thought they were coming from an empty cabinet that somebody left on the hallway like years ago. It was of course empty. He also called the police. They said they will send somebody, but it's probably just somebody tripping balls. Few days quiet. Sleep pretty normally. Dream comfy dreams when, all of a sudden, scream louder than ever. Wake up in hardcore daze. What the fuck was that? Scream getting louder. Hear thumps. Somebody starts frantically banging on my door. Almost shit myself shaking. Nope. Compose myself and try to make it to the door. Open door and hear the screaming. Coming from way down, echoing. Some other people come out, confused as fuck. Two of them venture out. I go along. They see that somebody has left the building as there was a slipper in the middle of the floor. Somebody calls the police and tries to explain. They come and do their usual business. Some are searching the area. Go back to my apartment. Can't fall asleep. Next morning, go downstairs. Ground floor occupied by two cops. They ask me if I was here last night. Say, yeah, with some other people, because of the spooky banging and screaming. Satisfied with lame answers, they leave. See explorer neighbor and ask what's going on. He says that he came down around 6 a.m. to walk his dog. Saw some sticks and dirt scattered through the ground floor. Sticks were moved in a formation that made up a sentence. It said, "I will not break the mirror. I will not lose him." They figured it was probably the screaming lady before the police came to take a report. Get a bit spooked. Go to work. Get back and see that somebody left a note on the leaflet board. It said, "If you need somebody to talk to, we are here for you. Please come to apartment 47, their surname, your concerned neighbors." Go up and sleep. Quiet for almost 2 weeks. Life gets back to normal. One day, return from work. Go towards the escalators. It takes forever to come down, and somehow, I decide that it would be a brilliant idea to walk up to the 11th floor. Listen to music on headphones and walk the stairs. Song ends, and I hear the screams through my headphones. Stop for a second, put down headphones, and notice that the screams are extremely loud. Soon, hear somebody running from the bottom floor towards me with great speed. Put two and two together. Hardcore nope. Start running like a maniac. The screams are getting louder. Too pussy to turn my head and take a look. Trying to keep up the pace. Look down and see that somebody is grabbing the rail. It's a hand with long fingers. Double fucking nope. Finally make on the 11th floor and run like hell to my apartment. Open, get in, close and lock. Breathing heavy. Listen and hear how she runs past my apartment and towards the upper floors. Call police. By now, they are sick of our calls, but they still send someone. They finally managed to locate her in the upper apartment. Some middle-aged lady who has some mental problems. Turns out, she was off the pills for months and had episodes. Later found out she was a domestic abuse victim from somebody who talked to her daughter. She was seeing her dead husband/abuser coming from the mirror, but didn't want to destroy it since she was missing him in some fucked up way. It explains the sticks, I guess. Later found out that she was moved somewhere else. Life goes back to normal. Kinda sad story, to be honest. Living in an older apartment with roommate. He had a cat for a while. It was pretty cool. Cat comes into my room most nights to sleep next to me. Very comfy. Roommate breaks up with girlfriend. Cat goes with her. A few months pass. Start feeling a small creature jump on my bed at night when I'm half asleep. Sometimes feel it slowly walk up and around the bed. Figure it's just a dream/memory of roommate's former cat. Starts to happen when I'm still conscious before falling asleep. Or wakes me up in the middle of the night and still feel it when I'm fully awake. Never feel afraid. Actually, feel...
This will be only this high level of detail for this one piece squish. In future, I'll streamline the design a bit more for you. Yeah, okay. These cools.
serene and comforted when it happens. Rational part of me figures it's the mattress springs going out, or gusts of wind or air pressure changes messing with my blanket. Not fully convinced though, because there is a noticeable bounce when it first happens. Then, deliberate pattern of steps, which matches pace and manner of a small animal walking. One night, I say aloud, "Hey buddy, can you take it easy? I have to get up early." It immediately stops. Get new girlfriend. She stays over one night. She wakes me from sleep, shaking me urgently. "Anan, what is that? Is something on the bed?" We both feel a small creature walking around. We both see small indentations being made on top of the blanket. Ask it to just rest, because we're trying to sleep. Movement stops. Overall, it was a pleasant experience. I'm not sure exactly what it was, but it was never frightening. It felt like something that knew me, and just wanted to be close to me. Lots of other paranormal events happened at that apartment, experienced by multiple people. I would also have frequent pleasant dreams of glowing geometric shapes, or beautifully colored UFOs appearing outside my window. The dreams would end with a deluge of information flowing into my mind. I couldn't make out most of it, but it always left me with a feeling that reality was more complex and beautiful than we are even capable of consciously understanding.
That last story was meh. I used to have this ghost cat. It was in college, and rumor was that the college that I went to, like the way back in the day, it used to be a barracks for soldiers, and I don't know, like might be just like a BS rumor, but people had there were several people in different dorm units who had like fucking spooky experiences, and mine was a ghost cat. So like the first time I saw it, it was just like me and my roommate. Like we were just kind of sitting on his bed, just watching his TV because he was the only one that had one. And it was only two of us. There were supposed to be three, but the third guy never showed up. So that was cool. It was just like me and my roommate, and we would just like fucking chill out in his bed and watch TV and play video games. And we're watching this. I think it was some sort of paranormal show, and I was ready to just brush it off as just like me being like um, having like mental like a mental projection since I'm watching something spooky. Maybe I'm imagining something spooky, but as I'm watching the show with my roommate, I see like a dark shadow on my bed, and then as it like approaches the edge of my bed, I'm still watching the TV, and I tell my roommate, he's like, "Hey man, there's something on my bed," and he tells me like, "Shut up, dude, just shut up," because we're both kind of getting spooked out just watching this paranormal show. I can't remember what it was, but anyway, as I'm like looking at this thing in my periphery, like I notice it's the shape of a cat, and I tell him like, dude, it's it's a ghost cat. And he tells me, no, it's not. And not kidding you that it's like it's still in my periphery, and like I see this like dark outline silhouette of a cat just walk across my bed, get to the head of my bed, and then just jump off onto the floor. And ever since then, like whenever I'd like lay down in bed to like go to sleep, I would feel like these points of pressure, just like something small, like jumping on my bed and then walking around, like around my legs, and then just kind of curling up between my knees, like a cat would do. And I would tell my roommate of each occurrence, like each time it happened, each time I felt like this ghost cat jump on my bed. It's like, dude, like it's back. It's like walking around on my bed. And each time he would tell me to shut up, like, no, it's not real. Because he was spooked out. Like, I don't know if he was like really, if he believed the paranormal, but he enjoyed like getting like watching paranormal stuff and just getting creeped out. But yeah, I would tell him of each occurrence, and like even it would happen like sometimes during the day. But all in all, it might just be like a mental impression from just watching paranormal stuff and visualizing a cat, and then like me tricking myself that I'm feeling the sensations of like things that cats would do. Because like sometimes even during the day when I'm just in the dorm room and doing homework or whatever, I would feel like a cat like brush up against my arm or something, as if it's like just doing like what a cat would do, just like brushing up against you to get some attention for some head pats or back rubs or whatever. But most of the time it was just feeling like some sort of like cat ghost jumping on the bed and just making itself comfortable and curling up between my knees. But it was cool. Anyway, on to the next one. 4chan Green Text Compilation Volume 14! Creepy horror stories! I hope so. Sometimes they're not all that creepy. Sometimes they're just like fucking shitty creepy pastas. Like that one I was making fun of, the previous one. It's like, dude, fucking leaps of logic, man. This guy has a cabin in the woods, and he's aware of these like creepy entities that are potentially dangerous, and he invites like a whole host of people to just come out and party. Because these creepy entities are supposed to like abide by these certain rules that he has in his head. And unfortunately, two of his pals get taken up by these spooky things. And even when his friend is trying to get some sort of information out of him, he's like, just continues to be cryptic, like, oh no, just forget about it, man. It's best that you don't think about this stuff. It's like, man, fuck you. It's fucking shitty story and everything. Gah. Just, it's frustrating. So frustrating. Anyway.
Well, fuck it. Don't give a damn if anyone believes it or not. Normie here. Newbie lawyer, making about 1,500 bucks month, plus bonus, started on /b/back on 2010. Saw it on Cracked. It took me a while to understand how this shithole works, go on /x/. I remembered I got spooked far more often back then, maybe I just got used to, become an avid lurker at /x/. /fit/and/vr/. Sometimes even posting. One day I posted a funny somewhere, and some trip named Mandiopan kept responding to me, haha you funny guy, take the S, forget about it immediately. Later that night playing WoW, Cataclysm was just out. Questing with my undead warrior, some dude named Trivian PMs me, hey funny guy, it's Mandiopan, haha, take the S, I freaked the fuck out. Seriously, like, it started slowly, because I remembered that faggot line, then it dawned on me, where have I seen it on fucking 4chan? How the fuck this dude knew me? Try PM back. No player with this name is online. Try email, same thing. Maybe some friend of mine knew I posted on 4chans, forgot about it. Buy my GF some book, Bisha love book, about a guy telling his story after he was in an accident that left him crippled. GF loves the book, said it was funny, I should read it. Third chapter, the guy is a hospital and some male nurse is giving him a shower, I shit you not. That's what the character says, chill out bro, or dandruff will turn into Mandiopan, ha ha ha. You funny dude, take the S, I feel weird, as if I were instantly drunk or high, feels like a dream, thoughts start mush and mix, tell the story to my sister, she does not believe, tell to my mom, she thinks is a joke. Same thing with GF, go to / ever since but every fucking on just answers Mandiopan. Haha, funny guy take the ass, it's fucking true and no one believes in you. Haha you funny guy, take the ass.
Homeless guy riding a bike, points his finger at my friend like an imaginary gun, says, bang, and fakes recoil on his gun hand. Friend grabs his chest and slumps over. Homeless bike guy, in thick Eastern European accent, ha ha. I come from space. He rides away so. Random encounter thread. Doing patrol of building, dark business park, near front by roundabout when I hear maniac cackling. Homeless man riding bike in the dark cackling loudly. Sitting at security desk. Front lobby is mirrored glass. Loud bang. Against the top glass pane. Look outside and see a dead bird with its neck snapped fidgeting on ground. Employees rush outside to help. Girl is sobbing, it's dead.
Going home from friend's house late at night. He lives in a somewhat rural suburb. Have to walk along a long stretch of road without any lights. Dark as fuck. Can't see shit. Only light is from the occasional car that's passing me. Suddenly a bicycle stops next to me. Sitting on it, a guy wearing a leather trench coat, cowboy boots, jeans, fingerless gloves, and a completely black motorbike helmet, visor and all, with about 5 burning flashlights duct taped to it. Oh fuck, I'm going to get mugged and killed. He says in a deep and gravelly voice, hop on. I'm alone at night on an abandoned road, might as well join this creepy stranger on his bike, it's gonna be a wild ride. Kid starts pedaling like the fucking devil, breezing across the pavement, illuminating the night with his fucking flashlight helmet, drops me off close to home, salutes and disappears around a corner. I like to believe that I met the fairy of stray youth that night.
Going to use a name when I post green text, hope you're all okay with that. Sometime between 2002 to 2005, on habbo.co.uk there is a promotion going on with Nokia and Orange Mobile. Employees from both companies have access to an unlimited company account that allows them to buy Habbo credits at us for a cut rate, and then charge them back to the company. The idea behind it was so Nokia and Orange staff were able to buy furniture items for the promotional events that we were doing in-game with them. An employee from one of the two companies was withdrawing large amounts of credits, as much as 10,000 C at a time, from the company account, which tallies up at quite a lot of money. I believe at the time, the rate we charged them out at was £50 for 500 C to normal users, but Orange and Nokia employees got a cut rate of about £7 for 500 C. One of the Habbo's voluntary moderators offers to investigate this guy and find out exactly what he was up to. She gets back to us about it, and it turns out to be something quite horrifying. Turns out, he was abusing his position in order to pay kids, and I mean kids 11 to 13-year-olds, for webcam sex and lewd pictures via MSN, and we had plenty of evidence to back it up. She managed to create another account, pose as a 12-year-old, and convince this guy to reveal himself for what he was, a fucking nonce. We built up a huge case against him, but when we went to the higher-ups about it, they weren't interested. We approached them about it, and we were all sent an email that looked something like this: we are aware of the user in question, but thank you for the attempt to bring him to our attention. However, we will not be taking action against him as no real harm is being done. Both parties are getting what they want, and we are making a significant profit from it in the process. There is nothing more to be discussed in regards to this, and any members of the Hobbit team caught discussing this amongst themselves are to be put through disciplinary, and upon a repeat offense suspended from the program indefinitely. Several people quit the Hobbit program on the spot, and I threatened my manager by telling them I'd both resign and report the happenings to the police during a group meeting we had on MSN. At the time I was working paid on customer support and community care, so I was obliged to protect the community at all costs, as it was a part of my contract, so I wasn't really able to stand for this even if I wanted to. He panics and begs me to do nothing of the sort, even tries bribing me by offering me a significant amount of overtime. I told him regardless of what he wants me to do, I'm emailing the guy's manager and making
Love
him
you
aware
too,
of what he
honey
is doing.
kitty.
I do it. They fire him.
Oh
and
wait,
thank me
or
for
are
not
you
making
just
a noise
loving
about
the
it.
boots?
The members of the moderation and Hobbit team that knew about it were sworn to silence by my higher-ups, and none of us ever spoke about it until we dropped our association with the company, or resigned from our positions. One Hobbit who spoke out about it first was Red Velvet, who was probably the most foul-mouthed person we had representing the company, referred to my manager as a kitty fiddler enabling fuck when I asked her about it years ago. I really have no idea what the fuck he was thinking, nor do I have any idea what the fuck the rest of the managers were thinking when they followed through with his brain-dead idea of attempting to cover up a scandal amongst a community of gobshites. Interview with Red Velvet on the subject. Apologize, I got the phone company wrong while telling the story originally. Red Velvet: you hit dead on the snowball that made us quit. I was assigned to go undercover and investigate a man who was giving out thousands of credits worth of furniture every day in exchange for cyber with young girls. Once I got to know him, I found out he was an employee of Vodafone and was sending fake SMSA through their system to get free credits all day long. When I gave the head Hobbit the logs of this investigation, she told me to keep it quiet and let him do what he wanted, since Vodafone was sending them the money that he was using and nobody was getting hurt. That broke my heart, my spint, and my faith in the Habbo staff. I was bound by the Habbo contract not to speak of this for 6 months beyond the date I quit. Once that time limit was up, I was interviewed by Watchdog, which I'm told is a TV show in the UK, and told them everything. I have no idea if that ever made it on the air, as I live in the US. Other than chasing money over people, I saw no problems with the staff. We are aware of the user in question, but thank you for the attempt to bring him to our attention. However, we will not be taking action against him as no real harm is being done. Both parties are getting what they want, and we are making a significant profit from it in the process. There is nothing more to be discussed in regards to this, and any members of the Hobbit team caught discussing this amongst themselves are to be put through disciplinary, and upon a repeat offense suspended from the program indefinitely.
September 2010. Bree Atkins, aka Mary, dies in a car accident. Her Habbo account is password changed to a randomly generated password by the staff team to prevent anyone from jacking the account to make a cunt of themselves. Fast forward to around February 2011, and I get an email from my work colleague frantically telling me to get my ass in client to have a look at something he found in the trading room of a pretty famous user. Login, load up client, go to his Chamber of Secrets room, which is where he keeps all of the dodgy items he confiscates from people before feeding them into the in-game recycler, in order to get rid of them in his downtime. Sat in the middle of his room are 3 trophies with blank inscriptions on them. 1 gold, 1 bronze, and 1 silver, all from the user, Mary, and all of which were sent in January 2011. A noticeable amount of time after her death. I was pretty sure it was some sort of distasteful prank, and trust me, Habbo's community did distasteful very well in later years, and I go to check the last logged in IP address on her account. Her frequently logged in IP address is the only one that appears on the account, and nobody had logged into the account since her death, which means the trophies couldn't have been directly sent from her account. Nope. Pull my colleague about it, and ask him where the fuck they came from. Explore all possibilities as to how these trophies could have came into circulation. Nothing turns up. Drop investigating it and he later recycles the trophies in order to delete them. Several other trophies from Mary showed up in-game in her friends' inventories, but we usually managed to grab them before anyone got chance to see them. The incident was officially noted as an unknown bug, and nothing more was done about it. As far as I know, the entire moderation team were aware of these trophies existing. And one regular user, who used to be a moderator, was aware of it as well. Worth noting, neither me, nor him had access to Mary, nor did we want access to it. The only people who had any chancel at getting access to that account were her parents, upon requesting the login from us, and they never got in touch with us to do so. As a side note, at a later date, probably mid-2012, her Habbo user page changed, and someone spelt out "angel" in letters above her username, which can still be seen, even though it is broken, here, but I never followed it up. No idea who changed it, or for what reason, but it happened. ex.habbo.com/home/Mary. I apologize for slow posts, but I'm doing this from my phone. This is nowhere near as short as I thought it would be. 2011. Meet a guy called Giovanni from the Dutch version of Habbo. He owns a website dedicated to more or less breaking, disrupting gameplay with software he and his friends write. I'll show you how clever you are, when I nip your shit in the bud. Join his forum, and start posting under the guise of being a normal user. Eventually gain his trust, end up as head moderator on said forum. Feed everything he creates back to my superiors, because it's my job. Game gets patched, all is well. Eventually Giovanni opens up to me about his personal life, as people often do on these games, tells me he wants to off himself and all of that. Become a genuine close friend of his, and report back to my boss with what he has told me in regards to his personal life. Tells me to pass it on to the moderation team, who will forward it on to a suicide hotline charity. Eventually leave my job, lose contact with him, but never left any doors closed. Gave him my email, and never told him I ever worked for the company, even though he did have suspicions. Fast forward to 8 months ago. I receive an email from Giovanni telling me he's had enough, and he's going to kill himself. This is pretty standard to me at this stage. Forward it to his friend, saying, "I'm going to respond to this when I get in from work tonight. Talk to him until then. Thanks." By the time I read the email, he was already dead. Turns out he killed himself earlier that day, and I missed him by about 3 hours. Noped out big time when I found out about it. If you want to hear about some of the weirder shit that I've come across, let me know. The earlier days were the weirdest ones for the hacking, scripting, period. But the later ones were the weirdest for the stalkers, and genuine psychopaths who wanted to fuck me or kill me.
Check out them laces. Sweet.
Time for one of my nopiest of nopes I have ever noped, 2004, which puts me at 19 years old at the time. At this point, I was a community moderator, but I had a lot of free reign to do as I liked, so I could chat to users, and such, meet a slightly younger girl called Julia, 18, on the newly opened Dutch version of Habbo, where I was supervising the launch, and preventing the English users from making cunts of themselves with the new Dutch community. Seems pretty nice, but she has shitty English. Asks me to talk to her more often so she can pick up the language. Sure, what could possibly go wrong? Add her over on the UK version, which is where I am based out of, and we get talking pretty often, and become quite good friends. If anything, she grows increasingly infatuated with me, but I let it slide under the radar, because I'm used to it. Let's do the time warp again. 2006, which puts me at 21. Eventually I become friends with a guy she knows called Adam, who warns me she's batshit insane, and that I'm an idiot for trusting her. His words were just wait until she shows up on your doorstep. Dude, tell him yeah, right, like that's gonna happen. I was wrong. One day, Julia stops coming on MSN, and eventually drops off of Habbo for a week. Out of nowhere, I get a phone call in Dutch and broken English from a girl, Ik hou van jou. Yes, I am here to see you. Anon, line goes dead. Fucking no way. Go into full denial mode. Must be a prank call. Wrong again, Buster. Knock on my door later that day. Guess who it is? Julia. Throws herself over my doorstep and force hugs me. Don't really know how to react to this because I didn't give her my address, and I'm terrified. What the fuck is happening? Cunt.
Invite her in regardless, because I'm not a total dick, and ask her what she is doing here, and how she found me. I try to keep as cool as possible, but I'm visibly shitting my pants. She just smiles at me, and tries to explain. Turns out, she got my address from a leak that happened on the customer support line 5 months prior, in which my address, works email, phone number, full name, the lot, was included in with that of about 50 to 70 other people who worked for Select/Habo. She sums it all up with, "And now I am here to be with you forever and ever. I got a ferry here to be with you." What? Don't really know how mentally stable this chick is, don't want to get my face peeled off, ultimately end up spending the day with her, in which she acts like nothing is wrong, and likes clinging onto me, and calling me her boyfriend, play along with it both out of fear for my life, and partially for her sake as she is clearly a fucking total nutjob. She goes home after 2 days of this, and 3 months later ends up in the loony bin when she starts hearing voices and seeing things. Apparently, there was a chunk of self-harm, and supposedly went for someone with a knife for saying they don't want anything to do with her anymore. Fucking shit, the largest bricks known to mankind, and proceed to become terrified every time someone knocks on my door, knowing I quite easily could have been killed in the 2 days I spent with her, end up having to move house, still makes me paranoid thinking about it to this day, and I occasionally have nightmares over it. Thank God I am no longer at that address. We'll post a few more if anyone is interested. Just let me know what it is you want to hear about. Might have to be tomorrow though, as I have work in the morning.
2007, 22 years old. Main bases of operations at this point in time are Habo UK and Habo USA. Going about my business in client, hosting an event on the US hotel, standing in for the site manager who was on vacation at that point in time. One of the on-duty moderators calls me over from my desk, was working out of the London offices on this particular day, with a worried look on his face. "Anon, what should I do about this?" Guy pulls up the chat logs from a room he was monitoring in spectator view. Looks like high-ranking staff member who I shall call Colin has been talking to a random girl in a room. Weird, he's not even supposed to be on shift, he's not at the office today, what's he doing online? Don't know, but read his chat log, read through it, and it consists of him calling some girl none of us have ever heard of, everything from the love of his life, to a dirty little slut, all the while threatening to out her for what she's been up to her parents unless she stayed with him. For fuck's sakes, Colin, what the fuck are you doing, you stupid cunt? Do checks on this girl's account, and her age checks out at 15 years old, and Colin, at the time, was about 30. How fucking long has this been going on? Tell the moderator who stumbled upon this to go and relax for a bit, while I get to the bottom of this, start digging through Colin's chat logs, and gather that he's been seeing this girl for about 6 months, and that they've had chem chats outside of Habo, over MSN. Also notice that he's been gifting her loads of expensive, and unreleased, items in-game. Decide to force my way into Colin's work email to find out more information, as he used his work's email as the recovery for his personal. Lock him out of his MSN and personal inbox, and trawl through his emails. Bingo. I shit you not, literally thousands of back and forth emails between him and this girl from Habo, who was called Destiny. They started off casual and friendly, became quite romantic and filthy, then the nudes came in, and then videos, then arguments, and then finally it ended with about 50 back and forths of him threatening her with nude pictures of herself, and a list of her information, including her bank details, address, phone number, etc., while she begs him not to, and sends him more nudes at his request, in order to keep him from outing her. Feel fucking sick to my
Fucking
stomach.
scumbag.
Release his email back to him after I take backups of everything, and he doesn't know I've been into it. He plays it off as must have just bugged itself up, I'm back in now. Resist the urge to break his nose when he comes back into work the next morning. Keep an eye on him in client for a further 2 weeks after informing a company director about what is going on. Suddenly, Colin puts holidays in at work, and before he clocks off, and leaves the office, he sends Destiny a message in Habo saying "see you there, remember to bring it with you, I'll be about 2 hours." She does not get a chance to respond. Luckily, I was on duty, and I leapt on it the second he sent it. Oh no, you fucking don't. Literally jump out of my chair, and run out of the office after him, and put my hand on his shoulder. "Call, before you go. Director wants to talk to you, I have somewhere to be, can't I do this later?" "No, you can't, it'll only take 5 minutes." "Fine." Police are called in, I hand in all of the evidence I've gathered against him, and the whole thing was very quietly dealt with between me, the mod who discovered what he was up to, a company director, and the police, in the privacy of said director's office. Colin got fired on the spot, his account got debauched, and banned, his work email was seized, his phone was seized, his personal email was seized, his computer was seized, the police took everything, girl's parents were informed, and I believe they got their daughter to press charges against him for harassment, stalking, amongst a whole pile of other things. Email is sent out to myself, and everyone else who was in the office the day Colin was let out, telling us all it was totally unrelated to anything regarding Habbo, or Silicon Corporation, and nobody believed it. As a side note, one of the female moderators I
such
worked with
language.
spat at him as he was let out of the office.
What is this Habbo thing that they keep, like, referring to? Is that like a chat platform? Ugh. Habbo. Or is it like a gaming platform? Oh, it is like a game platform. Habbo Online Game is an online community aimed at teens and young adults. Oh. Okay. Yeah, no. It's like looks kind of like a 8-bit version of, like, it looks like Minecraft and Sims put together, but like 8-bit. Anyway.
This by the police, and the only thing said to her was enough, by one of the officers who came to pick him up. She just shook her head, and went back to work after muttering something to herself. We never saw him again after that, and word has it, he did some time for his sins. I'm just glad I managed to put a stop to it before he fucking hurt someone.
Used to roleplay on Habbo, met some creepy people there. This one guy used to be obsessed with one of the girls in our roleplay group, and I mean, obsessed. I can't remember her name myself, but I think it was something like Caitlin. The only things he ever asked was, "Where's Caitlin? When's Caitlin getting on? Caitlin, Caitlin, Caitlin." Eventually, we'd all made a room on MSN, and this nigga continued with the fuckery. We removed him from the chat and didn't mess about with him. I hung around this group for 6 months longer, and he still attempted to get in contact with us. More specifically, Caitlin. I went inactive, came back a year and a half later, and I scrolled through my old friends list. A lot of our group was also inactive, but 3 people including Caitlin were still active. They'd last logged on yesterday. Oh cool. I thought, and I eventually met them. We messed about, spoke for a while. Turns out this nigga was still trying to talk to Caitlin. Almost 2 years of him stalking a girl on Habbo. That's all I got. Short one just to fill in while I'm at work. 2005. Jeff Weiss goes on a shooting spree at Red Lake Senior High School. Media goes nuts and discovers he was an active user on Newgrounds and a few other popular websites at the time. Everyone suddenly starts painting the finger at the internet, mainly Newgrounds, claiming people online egged him on to do it. Police start poking around looking for more of his social media accounts and the like. 2 days after the shooting, my manager pulls me aside and asks for a quiet word with me in private. He's a total bro, so I don't mind. Anon, do you mind doing me a favor and wiping user from the database on .com? I don't have enough access to the housekeeping to do that. You do now. Consider it an unofficial promotion. Get it done for me. Sure, and thanks, but can I ask why? Isn't deleting someone a bit excessive? Know how the media have been asking around about that Red Lake shooter? Yeah, just gives me a look. Fuck off. No way. Let's keep damage to a minimum, yes? Sure man, I'll get it done. Fucking hell. Wipe it, and we never get any hassle about it. Later that year, I end up getting promoted genuinely by the same manager. Apparently the only people who were aware of his presence on Habbo were his friends, who didn't know who he was. Myself, another member of community staff, who I think discovered his aunt in the festo.
Log into Habbo for the first time in years. Go to the My Rooms tab to check out my old room. Notice there's a green indicator, meaning someone is currently in my room. What the fuck apparatus? I toot Hippo 79 Hainel Superbi Bimo Nesbo. Popetis Polizella Heratus. At this I deleted all my friends on Habbo years before when I quit, so it wasn't possible that anyone knew I was online. Quickly go in my room. There's a bald pale person dressed in all white sitting on my sofa. I stare at them in complete silence. Finally ask, who are you? No response. Try again. Hello? Why are you here? They reply, a fucking smiley. That's it. they instantly disappear from room. What are the odds that a person randomly stumbles upon my old ass room that had been visited by anyone in years right at the same time I decide to log in? It unsettled me. I'm sure there's an explanation, but again, the timing was just really creepy and almost beyond the realm of coincidence. Reiki and Tun Natalie Nyan Palaranchal 2000, Habo.fi, the pre-staff years at the time. Habo was called Hoteli Kaltakala, or Goldfish for the English speakers among us Syracuse Rita Poini Havita. The community was small and tightly knit together, everyone knew everyone, and things were pretty simple. Huda or Pak, December rolls around, and the staff are doing a Christmas event, and a giveaway to celebrate the upcoming launch of Habo.co.uk in January the next year. Site suddenly goes offline, which wasn't uncommon at the time, as the whole thing was technically still in beta. Hotel immediately reloads, and everyone's rooms are missing, including the public bars, and everything else. Alert appears on the hotel view in Finnish that translated to someone threatening to wipe out the entire database out, and stop the launch of the UK hotel unless Oppo and Sampo, founders of Selake and Habo, pay up $10,000. Another alert quickly follows in English reading. Don't panic. We got this. Hotel goes down and instantly goes back online again. All of the rooms are restored, and the hotel gets immediately alerted with another Finnish message, this time saying Velo Poi, which translates to lights out. Hotel drops offline again, and this time stays down for 3 hours, with a message standing in its place, both in English and Finnish, not to worry, we'll fix this. When the hotel eventually comes back online, all of the rooms are restored, but every single one of them is called Suck. Another alert in Finnish, this time it roughly translates to pay up. Are you scared? Down it goes again. All of the rooms are restored back to normal next time the hotel comes back online, and the hotel alerts stop. Nobody ever explained publicly what was going on, and I still don't know to this day. Asked about it when I eventually got a job at Selake, and nobody there could share any light on it. Asked Sampo about it, and he just shrugged it off as just another attack that happened in the earlier days. One of the devs probably fixed it.
A long detour the hitchhiker Andy picked up on that July afternoon was one of the stranger people he had met. She had, after a warm thanks for stopping, and a moment or two of silence, proclaimed herself to be able to grant a wish. The conjuration she had performed in support of this was quite remarkable. Once the sound of the symbol had stopped ringing in Andy's head, he was quite impressed. Now Andy, good Christian that he was always of the opinion that you should do a good deed for its own sake, and not for material reward. He lightly waved away the images of wealth or power that the girl suggested. My one wish, young lady, is to get you to where you're headed.
Huh.
The girl's face contorted with fear as darkness fell outside. The third floor, my friend Mark and I love.
I remember hearing that short, scary story from way back in the day. All right, let me hear it again.
The devs probably fixed it.
A long detour the hitchhiker Andy picked up on that July afternoon was one of the stranger people he had met. She had, after a warm thanks for stopping, and a moment or two of silence, proclaimed herself to be able to grant a wish. The conjuration she had performed in support of this was quite remarkable. Once the sound of the symbol had stopped ringing in Andy's head, he was quite impressed. Now Andy, good Christian that he was always of the opinion that you should do a good deed for its own sake, and not for material reward. He lightly waved away the images of wealth or power that the girl suggested. My one wish, young lady, is to get you to where you're headed. The girl's face contorted with fear as darkness fell outside. The third floor, my friend.
Like the end sort of implies that she's going to hell, and since she has no choice but to grant his wish, and his wish was to get her to where she was heading, and hell being her final destination, the skies grew dark. So in all actuality, like he's got no choice but to drive her to hell.
Mark and I love exploring abandonments. We've been doing it for years, and I'm telling you, it never gets old. The constant creepy feeling, finding new areas, guessing at the history, it's almost addicting. From the first time we did it, we were hooked. Still, you can only explore houses for so long before you have to move on to something bigger, and that's what led us to what happened last year. There was this huge abandoned hospital near us, just a few towns over. We'd never seen it ourselves, but knew that it had been abandoned for several decades, having closed down in favor of a smaller, more modern one. Mark shot me down the first few times suggested it, since he was worried about getting caught by the police. Eventually I was able to convince him, pointing out that they'd probably just tell us to leave. It was around 7:30 p.m. when we left, but it was summer, so the sun was still up. On the way there, we went over the plan one more time. The hospital was pretty isolated, and the area around it was overgrown. The idea was to drive to a parking lot about a quarter mile away. From there, we'd sneak through the bushes, and by the time we got there, it would be dark enough to walk across that last paved stretch to the front doors unseen. When we got to the parking lot, we stood by the car for a few minutes. The road next to the lot went by the hospital, and we wanted to get an idea for the traffic, and, therefore, our chances of being seen. It seemed like our odds were pretty good. In the 10 minutes we waited, only a single car went by. Next, we checked our supplies. For each of us, a flashlight, a bottle of water, some disinfectant, a box of band-aids, and a cheap radio, for when we inevitably decided it would be creepier if we split up. I almost forgot, I got this from the library earlier. He reached into his backpack and retrieved a rolled-up piece of paper. It's a map of the building, for the fire exits and stuff. You take it. I asked, doesn't a map kind of defeat the purpose of exploring? We'll only look at it if we have to. If one of us gets hurt, it would kind of suck to bleed to death looking for the exit. Alright, but why do I have to take it? Because one of us means me. He had a point. In the years we'd been exploring, we'd had 3 total injuries. All of them were him. I put the map in my back pocket, and we started towards the hospital. Just as planned, it was dark when we got there. Because of the surrounding trees, we couldn't make out a clear silhouette of the building against the sky. Shining our flashlights on it showed a brick exterior, and 3 floors. Most of the windows were broken. The main entrance was wide open. One of the double doors was on the ground nearby, with the other nowhere to be found. Most definitely, we were not the first people to check it out, which was expected. I don't think we've ever had to break in ourselves. In we went. The place was in really bad shape. The floor was covered in dirt, and most of the doors had been kicked in. There were holes in most of the walls, indicating that thieves had taken the copper wiring. There was also loads of water damage. With all of this, do I even have to mention the graffiti? The first floor was probably the most interesting. It had the cafeteria, staff room, and, by far most interestingly, the morgue. There was even a set of tools left behind. As a rule, we don't take things from abandonments, but at that time we really wanted to. We went up the stairs to the second floor. There, most of doors were intact, and there was no graffiti. I guess the teenagers looking for trouble were too lazy to climb a set of stairs. The thieves had motivation though, and there were just as many holes in the wall as downstairs. It was at this time that, as always, Mark wanted to split up. I tend to take my time, and he moves pretty quickly in comparison. I go for detail, he aims to see everything. Because of this, I knew he'd end up far away from me. It was alright with me though, as I kind of liked the silence. The creepiness is a big part of what makes it fun, and if he didn't split us up, I probably would have. The second floor was mostly just patient rooms. Beds and tables, nothing much. As I was exploring, I could hear Mark's footsteps upstairs. They'd go a distance, stop, I'd hear the faint sound of a door opening, and then I'd hear him move away. He really had gotten ahead. I'd only explored about half of the floor, because I then came across a relatively large sitting room, which was in the middle of the building. It was actually pretty well illuminated by moonlight, thanks to the large window that made up one wall. Looking out, I could see the paved front area we had entered from. I didn't really need the flashlight, so I turned it off. There was a coffee table in the center of the room, surrounded by 4 old sofas. Sat down at one of them for a water break. It was pretty creepy, just sitting there alone, everything bathed in a dull blue light. I kept seeing things out of the corner of my eye, but in that light, this was expected. I was just putting my bottle away when I heard my radio crackle. Mark said, "Hey, I'm kind of lost here. Can you help me find you?" I would have been annoyed at having to use the map, but after seeing things for a few minutes, I was kind of creeped out, and wanted to get back together. "Alright." I asked, "What's the nearest room number?" "I'm in room 308. "Okay. You're in the east wing, 3rd floor. Where do I go from here?" "Walk so that the numbers are descending. There should be a staircase next to 301. About 2 minutes went by. I was about to try talking to him again when he came back on. "Okay, These stairs are blocked. Where are you? I answered, I'm in a sitting area in the middle of the second floor. I take it you're next to 301 now? Yes. Okay, now you'll want to move in ascending order then. There should be an employee staircase next to 349. That leads down here. Across the hall from the sitting room, according to the map, was a staff lounge. This was where the stairs went. After 10 more minutes, I could hear Mark's footsteps above me. Once again, the radio crackled on. These stairs right here? Yep, I can hear you above me. As I listened to him walk off, I went to the door of the staff lounge. On the other side, I could hear Mark descending the steps and walking across the room. When he reached the door, the knob jiggled, but it was locked. I yelled through the door to unlock it. Strangely, he answered through the radio, even though he was just on the other side. The lock is broken. You'll have to open it for me. I really don't like damaging sights, but I was way too freaked to keep sitting there by myself while I lead him to another staircase. I backed up and got ready to kick the door down. Just as I was about to kick it, my cell phone rang. I practically jumped through the ceiling. I answered the phone. What? Christ, you scared the crap out of me. And you've been scaring the crap out of me. It was Mark. Asked, what do you mean I've been scaring you? You weren't answering your radio. I've been waiting outside for like 20 minutes, where are you? I went back to the sitting room and looked out the window. Sure enough, there he was on the pavement. I said, okay, I'm on the second floor, the big window in the middle. I saw him look around for a second. He said, yeah, I see you. It was then that I heard a loud series of bangs. I ran into the hall. The staff room door was shaking with each hit. Whoever was on the other side was wailing on it, trying to get out. I turned around and tore out of there. I met up with Mark outside, and without a word, we ran through the woods to the parking lot. We got in the car, and sped off towards his house. When we got there, I told him what had happened. Then, he gave me his experience. When I went ahead of you to the other end of the second floor, tried to go upstairs. It was blocked by debris, but I heard footsteps up there. I kept trying to get you on the radio to ask how you did it, but you weren't answering. I thought you were screwing with me, but I was creeped out. I waited for you outside, and eventually thought to try your phone. I was thoroughly freaked, but he still had one last detail for me. There's one more thing, he said. Remember when I called you, and you asked if I could see you? I did see you. But... He paused. I didn't want to say anything then, but I could swear I could see people in the third floor windows. Autopilot, have you ever forgotten your phone? When did you realize you'd forgotten it? I'm guessing you didn't just smack your forehead and say damn for no reason. The realization probably didn't dawn on you spontaneously. More likely, you reached for your phone, pawing open your pocket or handbag, and were momentarily confused by it not being there. Then you did a mental re-step of the morning's events. Shit. In my case, my phone's alarm woke me up as normal, but I realized the battery was lower than I expected. It was a new phone and it had this annoying habit of leaving applications running that drain the battery overnight. So, I put it on to charge while I showered instead of into my bag like normal. It was a momentary slip from the routine, but that was all it took. Once in the shower, my brain got back into the routine it follows every morning, and that was it. Forgotten. This wasn't just me being clumsy. As I later researched, this is a recognized brain function. Your brain doesn't just work on one level, it works on many. Like, when you're walking somewhere, you think about your destination and avoiding hazards, but you don't need to think about keeping your legs moving properly. I wasn't thinking about regulating my breathing, I was thinking whether or not I should grab a coffee on the drive to work. I did. I wasn't thinking about moving my breakfast through my intestines, I was wondering whether I'd finish on time to pick up my daughter Emily from daycare after work or get stuck with another late fee. This is the thing. There's a level of your brain that just deals with routine, so that the rest of the brain can think about other things. Think about it. Think about your last commute. What do you actually remember? Little, if anything, probably. Most common journeys blur into one, and recalling anyone in particular is scientifically proven to be difficult. Do something often enough and it becomes routine. Keep doing it and it stops being processed by the thinking bit of the brain and gets relegated to a part of the brain dedicated to dealing with routine. Your brain keeps doing it, without you thinking about it. Soon, you think about your route to work as much as you do keeping your legs moving when you walk. As in, not at all. Most people call it autopilot. But there's danger
Loves you
there.
too, honey
If you have
kitty.
a break in your routine, your ability to remember and account for the break is only as good as your ability to stop your brain going into routine mode. My ability to remember my phone being on the counter is only as reliable as my ability to stop my brain entering morning routine mode, which would dictate that my phone is actually in my bag. But I didn't stop my brain entering routine mode. I got in the shower as normal. Routine started. Exception forgotten. Autopilot engaged. My brain was back in the routine. I showered. I shaved. The radio forecast amazing weather. I gave Emily her breakfast and loaded her into the car. She was so adorable that morning. She complained about the bad sun in the morning blinding her, saying it stopped her having a little sleep on the way to daycare, and left. That was the routine. It didn't matter that my phone was on the counter, charging silently. My brain was in the routine, and in the routine my phone was in my bag. This is why I forgot my phone. Not clumsiness. Not negligence. Nothing more, my brain entering routine mode and overriding the exception. Autopilot engaged. I left for work. It's a swelteringly hot day already. The bad sun had been burning since before my traitorously absent phone woke me. The steering wheel was burning hot to the touch when I sat down. I think I heard Emily shift over behind my driver's seat to get out of the glare. But I got to work. Submitted the report. Attended the morning meeting. It's not until I took a quick coffee break and reached for my phone that the illusion shattered. I did a mental restep. I remembered the dying battery. I remembered putting it on to charge. I remembered leaving it there. My phone was on the counter. Autopilot disengaged. Again, therein lies the danger. Until you have that moment, the moment you reach for your phone and shatter the illusion, that part of the brain is still in routine mode. It has no reason to question the facts of the routine. That's why it's a routine. It's not as if anyone could say, "Why didn't you remember your phone? Didn't it occur to you? How could you forget? You must be negligent." This is to miss the point. My brain was telling me the routine was completed as normal, despite the fact that it wasn't. It wasn't that I forgot my phone. According to my brain, according to the routine, my phone was in my bag. Why would I think to question it? Why would I check? Why would I suddenly remember, out of nowhere, that my phone was on the counter? My brain was wired into the routine, and the routine was that my phone was in my bag. The day continued to bake. The morning haze gave way to the relentless fever heat of the afternoon. Tarmac bubbled. The direct beams of heat threatened to crack the pavement.
God, so much reiteration. Just get to the point. You forgot your daughter in the fucking car.
People swapped coffees for iced smoothies. Jackets discarded, sleeves rolled up, ties loosened, brows mopped. The park slowly filled with sunbathers and barbecues. Window frames threatened to warp. The thermometer continued to swell. Thank fuck the offices were air-conditioned. But, as ever, the furnace of the day gave way to a cooler evening. Another day, another dollar. Still cursing myself for forgetting my phone, I drove home. The day's heat had baked the inside of the car, releasing a horrible smell from somewhere. When I arrived on the driveway, the stones crunching comfortingly under my tires, my wife greeted me at the door. "Where's Emily?" Fuck. As if the phone wasn't bad enough. After everything, I'd left Emily at fucking daycare after all. I immediately sped back to the daycare center. I got to the door and started practicing my excuses, wondering vainly if I could charm my way out of a late fee. I saw a piece of paper stuck to the door. "Due to vandalism overnight, please use side door. Today only." Overnight? What? The door was fine this morning. I froze. My knees shook. Vandals. A change in the routine. My phone was on the counter. I hadn't been here this morning. My phone was on the counter. I'd driven past because I was drinking my coffee. I'd not dropped off Emily. My phone was on the counter. She'd moved her seat. I hadn't seen her in the mirror. My phone was on the counter. She'd fallen asleep out of the bad sun. She didn't speak when I drove past her nursery. My phone was on the counter. She'd changed the routine. My phone was on the counter. She'd changed the routine and I'd forgotten to drop her off. My phone was on the counter. 9 hours. That car. That baking sun. No air. No water. No power. No help. That heat. A steering wheel too hot to touch. That smell. I opened the car door. Autopilot disengaged.
Hallucigenia. In 1977, English paleontologist Simon Conway
So
Morris
long to get
uncovered
to
the
the
fossilized
fucking
remains
point,
of a life
man.
form, a previously unknown species from a previously unknown genus in an obscure rock formation in British Canada. Colleague Stephen Jay Gould, one of the most influential scientists of his lifetime, called this life form, unrelated to any living species, on the planet Earth. This photograph of the fossil the most accurate depiction available. As can be readily seen, his immediate resonance was not unfounded. It was so strange that they named this new species, hallucigenia. The implication is that the scientists believed what they had found there, and would later find in China years later, was more likely a figment of their imagination than related to any life on Earth. The life form was asymmetrical. It moved via locomotion, employing tentacle-like lower appendages. Spines sat atop the creature in rows numbering the same as the tentacles. Gould and Morris retracted previous, more alarming statements about the nature of this entity. It must, of course, be some form of unknown arthropod. The only other logical explanation would be out of this world.
Asked friend if he knows anyone who had access to some tools I needed to finish a project, says sure, he knows a guy from work that would be happy to help. Apparently he was interested in the same kind of art. But warns me he's a bit off. Drive friend to work one day, he introduces me. Guy seems really distant and withdrawn, shakes my hand and we chat a bit. He seems real interested in the woodwork I was doing, and we talked about sculptures and such for a little while, things we'd leaned, tools we used, etc. Guy warms up a bit, and I ask him if it would be alright if I checked out some of his stuff. He hesitantly agrees, kind of like when you're trying to come up with an excuse, but just can't. He tells me to swing by that night, we can chat over a few beers, okay sure. Later that night I get a call, it's the guy, he sounds a little shaken up, says things chaotic at home, and right now isn't a good time. Says he'll call me sometime, whatever sure man. 2 weeks go by, guy calls one afternoon, says things have settled down, and he wants me to bring over some of my works as well, to compare and blah blah blah. Sure dude, so I start to head over, and notice this guy lives in the middle of fucking nowhere. I had to call him up just to find his house. It's at the end of a long driveway, beautiful acre plus of land, the driveway is littered with trees, and his house is actually pretty nice. As I come up the driveway, something strikes me odd about the trees I'm passing up. They all have faces carved into them facing the driveway, twisted, pained faces. I didn't think much of it, I make morbid stuff myself. And in fact I was very impressed, the amount of detail was staggering. Looking out onto the tree line of the property, every tree had pained face looking in on the house, almost like the woods were watching you wherever you were.
Those
This
aren't
actually kind of freaked me
sculptures.
out. Looking out was like seeing 100 or so white faces, just crying out.
Nearly done for the day? Yeah, I'm almost done for the day. I think nearly complete with like the more complicated part of this image. And that was the boots with all the lacing. The lacing on the shorts should be a lot easier. And then it's just rendering the hair and then the tail. But we'll focus on that later.
Go on.
Kind of like they wanted your attention. A knock on the door, guy answers with a beer in hand, and a much friendlier demeanor than before, helps me carry some of my stuff in, and he shows me around. Guy seems pretty cool. Begin to notice each room has one of those same damned faces hanging above the door frame. The more I saw them, the more I felt sick. Up close the faces were more detailed than I had imagined, almost surrealistic. I asked him what his focus on the faces were for, and the guy kind of tensed up and dodged my question. Upon entering his workshop, which was fucking sweet by the way, he seemed to have other interests besides creepy faces, entire 7-feet sculptures of women, men, animals, etc. all very well done, and one with a tarp in the back, just chilling there. He says it isn't done yet, so I don't bother. It was right in front of a door that I think led to another room. We begin working on stuff together, trading stories and times we had
This is gonna
accidentally
be
entered
a
ourselves.
Fonse
Suddenly subjects
debut.
change. Guy asks me what I think about God. Tell him I'm not very religious, but I don't rule anything out. Guy starts getting a bit loud, saying that God is a blatant lie. He was told so, by who? He kinda silenced for a moment, and then abruptly asked me if I believed in spirits. Gave him kind of the same answer, it's possible. He starts looked around the room, as if seeing if anyone is around, and then his voice goes soft, and he kind of whispers for a moment. I see things in the woods. At dusk I can see their shadows. Sometimes they whisper from the trees, and I can hear them. Fucking nope. Obviously guy is mentally disturbed. Egg him on. Ask what they tell him, etc. They tell him that God is a lie, only thing after death is darkness. He says they laugh at him, and leave dead animals at his tree line, officially creeped out at this point.
He said for a while they visited him at night, and each face carving represented a different spirit that had visited him. Says that they can't stand looking at themselves in death, so they don't step within the tree line, thus why he has the entire thing carved out. I'm pretty silent at this point. I hadn't had goosebumps so bad since I was a kid. And chills just running up my spine. He told me they talked to him from the tree line at night, and try to get him to leave his home. Elle eagerly tried to change the subject. Guy looks down and just keeps talking. He's pale as a sheet, and was obviously genuinely terrified. He even kind of looks like he's welling up. Tells me I'm the only person he's told. Knowing I'm a stranger, he apologizes, says he's scared and doesn't know what to do anymore. I try my best to awkwardly console this stranger, and the guy actually kind of starts to break down. I think he needs help, but it's not my place to give it to him. Regrettingly ask him why he's afraid. Says the faces don't work anymore, and 2 weeks ago he had something terrible in his living room. Huh? Greater than he walks over to the tarp sculpture and pulls the tarp off. To reveal the most mangled, terrible thing I have ever seen. It hardly resembled a human being. It was terrifying to have imagined this guy seeing it standing in his living room. Shortly after a loud bang on the wall to my right. I nearly jumped out of my skin. This guy didn't even flinch. Then again, bang, then it just continued on, continuously, like hail hitting a tin roof. Guy screams, "Stop it," and it ceases. After that I grabbed my shit, tell the guy I'm sorry, and got out of there as quickly as possible. As I'm leaving his home and driveway, I look into the review mirror. The tree line is darker than I've ever seen. Guy calls a week later and apologizes. Says he was silly and everything is okay now. Friend says Guy quit, never hear from him again.
Who doesn't use BitTorrents these days? I'm certainly more than guilty of pirating thousands of dollars worth of media. Mahoney never again. It all started when a torrent file popped up in my client that I didn't remember downloading. It was labeled Mahoney. It was only 112 megabytes. I figured my brother had downloaded a CD or something while I was away from the computer. It didn't worry me too much until my buddy came over and was fucking around on my computer. "Hey, what's this Mahoney shit you're torrenting?" he said. I don't know why, but I felt like giving a smartass answer. "It's, naked pictures of your sister," I said, and he rolled his eyes. I was never very good with wit. Though, as soon as I said that, the computer started making noise. You know the weird feedback that computers make when a cell phone goes off near it? It sort of sounded like that, except somehow angrier. We were a little creeped out, but we just shrugged it off. The Mahoney torrent was about % of the way done, and I was curious to see what it really was, so we put it in the back of our minds and continued bullshitting. Later that night, my brother came home while I was on the computer. I asked him about the Mahoney torrent and he said he didn't download anything. He might have been lying, but I don't know why he would. Not like it mattered. The torrent was 99% finished. I should have deleted it then, but curiosity was killing me when it finally finished. It appeared on my desktop as a single folder, labeled Mahoney. I clicked it open and nearly shit myself. It was my buddy's sister, Kristen, bare-assed and on her knees. All in all, there were about 45 pictures of her naked. I won't lie, I've been curious as to what she looked like in the buff, but she was rather plain-looking, and I was far from crushing on her. Though, there was pictures. In every one, Kristen was crying. Every picture showed Kristen with her eyes puffy and red, makeup running, and mouth open in an unmistakable groan of pain. This realization was too much. I clicked the red X and dragged the file into the trash bin. I was a little shaken, but the folder was gone now. I tried to stop worrying about it and sleep.
The next morning I turned on my computer only to find that the Mahoney folder had been restored to my desktop. I was visibly scared now, but more than that, I was curious. This file had in it exactly what I had said was in it. Maybe it was more than just a file. Maybe it was something magical. I tried to think of something tame, then thought the Mahoney folder has baby pictures in it. After a few seconds, nothing really happened, so I spoke out loud. The Mahoney folder has baby pictures in it. As I was uttering these words, my computer started to make that same strange feedback again, but a little louder than before. Sure enough, when I clicked the folder open, it was filled with pictures of babies. Crying babies. Not just the whiny babies that you always see. They were obviously sobbing. Terrified. Psychologists think babies don't know terror or fear or shit like that, but these babies were horrified by whatever was taking their picture. I was done with this. I dragged the folder to the trash, emptied it immediately, shut the computer off, and left for school. At school, I didn't tell my buddy about the Mahoney folder, and he didn't ask. He was too in shock. Apparently his sister was found unconscious in a pool of her own vomit. I wondered if I should tell him about the pictures, but in the end, I kept it to myself. Hopefully forgetting about it was the best thing to do, but I just couldn't get those images out of my head. Those screaming children, and my friend's sobbing sister. When I got home, I was almost afraid to boot up the computer, but I didn't have to. I walked into my room to find my brother on my computer. "You're into some fucked up shit, man, you know that?" he said as I walked in. I asked what he meant, and he said, "That file you've got, Mahoney or something? There's some fucked up shit in there." When he said that, the feedback was there again. Even louder this time. My eyes grew wide, and I ran past my brother to the computer. The Mahoney file was back. I clicked it open with a shaky hand, and the only thing inside was a single text file. I clicked on the file, and saw the two most horrifying words that I have ever read. "I'm free."
When I was younger, like 15-ish, I was home alone.
Oh, that's stupid. Oh. It's a fucking. It was a lame story, so I shouldn't have expected a decent ending. That ending was just fucking junk. Oh, I'm free. Oh no. So, like, what was this? Mahoney, some sort of like demonic digital entity? Oh. And like, why is his brother accusing him of like some fucked up shit? Like, it was him in the first place that asked his brother, like, are you like downloading this Mahoney thing? And his brother was like, no. So his brother should like know that like it wasn't him. Like, neither of them were downloading this Mahoney digital demon or whatever the fuck it was. But that ending. Oh, I'm free. Ugh. Lame. Fucking lame.
Chillin'. There's a knock on the door, so obviously I go see who it is. There's this guy, standing completely still, eyes straight ahead, basically staring at my forehead, with the blandest face possible. No defining features, a face you wouldn't remember even if you had a conversation with him. So I'm standing at the door, asking what he wants, is he looking for someone, etc., and all he replies with is, "Can I come inside?" E.g., what do you want? "Can I come inside? Who are you? Can I come inside?" in the same deadpan, monotone voice. No real inflection on anything. Eventually I say if he won't talk to me or look at me I'll just call the cops because he's being weird. So if this is a joke, to quit it.
Shut
I
up,
come inside,
dogs.
so I shut the door, and pretend to call the police. He still just stand there, my door was frosted glass. So I could see, I end up calling the cops for real. Explaining what is going on, get some quick photos for proof, and ask them to come and either chase him off or force him away. They tell me to go and hide somewhere in case he breaks in, so I...
Give me a second. Ow, my hip. Excuse me, doggos. Excuse me. Excuse me. Just some stupid voices. But I went ahead and took the time to go next door and get myself some more coffee. Where's your doggos? Where's your puppers? Oh, I think the dogs want to go outside. Is it time to go outside? Want to go outside? Okay. Oh shit. There we go. There we go. There we go. Thank yous, love. My darling lady Love Puff. This is Sweetie Love Puff. These my honey kitties. Sweetie honey kitty. Oh, where were we? Oh yeah, we just got done listening to a shitty creepypasta. Okay, next one.
About 15 minutes later I hear the police pull up, so I go and see what's going on.
Oh,
Creepy
we're still
guy
in
has
this one.
left, so I give a statement, and show them the photos took. At the time I was freaked out, but dismissed it as a creepy guy. Looking back on it, it's even creepier.
Alrighty. I lived in the house pictured from 1993 to 1998, so from when I was 4 years old to when I was 10 years old. We moved after my 10th birthday. My parents are smart people. They're both professors at our local university and made darn good money, so a beautiful character home such as ours, though I should say theirs, wasn't a big deal to me. I warn you, there is no spooky attic or basement here, so if it's a secret box under lock and key in the forgotten corners of a dusty ghost-ridden area, you are out of luck. But not entirely. If you take a look on the right side of the house, that top 2 windows of the nice sculpted brick was my room. To the left was my parents' master suite, and sweet it was. The basement had been renovated in such a manner that exchange students would stay there while away from their home country. I learned many interesting things about many different cultures, but never will I forget the impression Katya from Penza, Russia. She was quiet. I don't remember what she studied, but she was at our house when I was 9 years old. I distinctly remember saying very little to her until one day when I was playing in the front yard as she was coming home. "Devichka," she said in a soft voice, kneeling next to me, "do you like to live in this house?" It took me a moment to answer because of the thickness of her accent, but I nodded when I understood. She nodded herself and stood, walking around the back and going into her basement apartment for the day.
I don't think I spoke to Katya once more after that, only hearing about her. I was about to sneak downstairs for that one last glass of juice, any reason to stay up when I heard my parents talking in the living room. She says she hears us walking around at unheard of hours and it keeps her up, and she says it's definitely the sound of an adult. What do you think? My dad asked. My mom hummed for a minute before answering. She complained of that smell again to me today, and the strangest thing is I know what she's talking about. She describes the same smell as when we thought we had those septic problems, but we know everything's fine, so I really don't know. My father thumbed through another page of his book. You remember that guest lecturer in the intro to philosophy class I had? The one who said the mind can trick itself into believing into something? Better watch yourself, dear. He smiled devilishly and my mother laughed. At this time I had been noticed and my mother appeased me by getting a glass of juice and tucking me back in bed. I couldn't sleep now, my mind went crazy with what Katya could have been experiencing. The mystery was so great to me, I decided then and there I would stay up all night the next night to see if I could hear or smell anything strange too.
The next night was a Friday and my parents were going out of town for a business conference.
Why are you changing the voice for each, I guess, section of this story? It doesn't make sense. It's the same story. Just keep it all the same voice. I mean, what the fuck, man?
They asked if Katya would babysit me for the night and she agreed. We had a lot of fun, we watched movies and ate junk food till it was getting pretty late. Around 11, well past my bedtime, I noticed Katya becoming uncomfortable. She wouldn't sit still, her eyes constantly moved around the room and I could tell she was trying not to alarm me. I asked her what was wrong, she said nothing, instead she suggested we have a slumber party and sleep in my room. I was in, I didn't have any siblings so a cool Russian older sister was awesome. She closed my door and did my hair. She had rolled out some blankets on the floor for her to sleep on and let me ask her all sorts of questions about her home. I learned many things about Russia that night. I won't bore you with the factlets now. Katya was clearly trying to concentrate on anything over whatever was bugging her. Around midnight, something took my attention away from whatever we had been doing. A stench so strong I clenched my eyes shut. It smelled in such a way that I'd never be able to give the stench justice by trying to explain it here. I opened my mouth to protest the stink but Katya practically slammed her hand over my mouth and wrapped her free arm around me so tightly. I was scared my head was going to pop off. She stared intensely at the door, I stared too. Her eyes were narrowed, but frightened. I wanted to ask what was going on, but not only couldn't physically, I'm sure mentally I wouldn't have been able to as well. Then I heard shuffling, soft at first, but as the stench grew clearer and more putrid, the shuffling got louder. Footsteps. Dragging footsteps that sounded like who? Or whatever was walking didn't know how to lift your feet. They sounded wet, like a grown person trudging through thick mud. A low groan accompanied the sound, it was both tortured and angry. A sound that will haunt me for the rest of my days.
The shuffling stopped right outside my door. Whatever was out there was listening to see if we're inside. If we were awake. I saw Katya's cheeks puff, she was holding her breath. Her hand covered my mouth and nose and though I could barely breath, I knew she was silencing any sound I could make either. We sat that way for what felt like an eternity, and I'm surprised I didn't pee my pants in fear on that night. I barely remember anything after, only Katya finally releasing me from her death grip with a sigh and me falling in and out of sleep through the night. The result of the conference was my parents being transferred to a university in another town. They arranged for another home for Katya before we moved, only a month later, right after my 10th birthday just as I mentioned. I think back to that thing that haunted the hall of our house, how neither me or my parents had complained about it before. When I asked my parents in later years, they admitted several exchange students had mentioned hearing footsteps and smelling that smell, but it was always at insanely early in the morning. The types of times that only a university student pulling an all-nighter are all too familiar with. As for the thing itself and its purpose, well, I know it hadn't intended to creep into our rooms while we slept to kill us. No, it was making sure we were asleep. What it would do if we were not asleep, I never will, and never want to know.
Might as well tell my story. I was about 12 or 13, walking back from shopping center in England with my uncle, around 45 years old at the time, decide to take a shortcut and walk through the woods. It was a nice bright day, so why the fuck not? We get the feeling that we...
I just wanted to wait until that last story was over. So I guess I'll go ahead and call it good for tonight. I made a lot of progress today, even though I wasn't streaming all too often throughout the day. Just busy with family and such. So yeah, thanks for watching. Thanks to my darling, lovely moderator, Melody, for keeping me company. And to any lurkers watching, and to all the people watching later, if you like what you saw, please like, comment, share, subscribe, ring that notification bell. If you really liked what you saw, feel free to donate any monetary amount to the to my Ko-fi page. The link is in the description section below. But any one of those options would be very much appreciated. So, until next time, dear viewers, This has been Johnston Blackhorse, the one and only, and I shall check y'all later. Sweet. Bye.